Alright, so here is an instructional video on how to play the Cashflow 101 board game by Robert Kiyosaki. So first of all, there's three versions of this game. There is Cashflow 101, Cashflow 202, which is the more advanced version, and then there is a new version that is just simply called Cashflow. Personally, I prefer the older versions of Cashflow 101 and Cashflow 202. So the game, as I mentioned, is created by Robert Kiyosaki. He's the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the goal of the game is to help you learn how to invest and create passive income. There's actually two different places that you are playing this game. The first place that you're playing is on the board that you see here. The second place that you participate in the game is what's called an income statement and balance sheet, which we'll talk more about in a little while. So you'll notice every single player has a couple different things. Every single player has a game piece, which is a wrap like this, and a piece of cheese. All right, so the very first thing that you do when you're playing the game is you take your cheese and you put it on one of the dreams, which is any of the pink squares on the outside, and you can read through them. Mini farm in the city, cruise the Mediterranean, just whatever dream that you would like to select, and then you place your rat at the starting point. These right here you're going to use later on in the game, but you can discard them for now. So the game is played in two distinct areas. The first area here is called the rat race, and this represents life with a job. And the second area is called the fast track, and that's the outside circle here. The goal of the first part of the game is to get out of the rat race, to quit your job, and the way that you do that is by having more passive income than what you have for expenses. Once you do that, you don't need a job anymore. The second goal or part of the game is on the fast track, and when you're on the fast track, that's where you want to land on and buy your dream. There's a secondary way to win as well. However, the main goal here is to land on and buy your dream. So essentially your two goals in the game, number one is to create enough passive income to quit your job, and then number two, pursue and buy your dream. So that's the super basic version of how to play the game. I'm going to give you a little bit more of an example here. One more important piece is that you want to do that within the time limit. Every time you play the cash flow game, my recommendation is to set a timer for either an hour and a half or for 2 hours, but do not exceed 2 hours. If you cannot get out of the rat race within 2 hours, it means you don't understand the game yet. So you always want to play with a time limit, and essentially you're racing yourself versus the clock. So I'm going to go and explain a couple things here on the board. So once you get started in the game, you roll the dice and you move clockwise. So if you rolled and you landed on or passed paycheck, then you will receive what your paycheck is. Your paycheck comes from the income statement and balance sheet. So the very first thing you do when you start the game is you take one of these profession cards and you take the information from that card and you move it over onto your income statement and balance sheet, which looks like this. So it looks exactly the same. I'll give you a bit of more details here on this in a minute. But essentially, this is the income statement and balance sheet, and you just want to move all of your information onto this. You want to make sure that you use pencil because you're going to be erasing quite often. So what you'll notice on this income statement, I'll give you an example here. So if you notice on here, we've got income, which is our salary. We also would have any income from any assets like real estate or things like that that we have. Then we see all of our expenses underneath that. We also have the asset column and the liability column. Every single liability right here will have an corresponding expense. So if you paid off the $31,000 mortgage, your $300 per month mortgage payment would go away. Okay, so basically all of your income together equals this number right here. all of your expenses together equals this number right here. Your income minus your expenses is your monthly cash flow. It's how much money you have left at the end of each month. So when you land on or pass your paycheck, this is the amount of money that you're going to take from the bank in cash. You'll also notice that there are red doodad squares. The red doodad squares are things that you can purchase. So this one says, play your lucky lottery number, lose $100. Now, the doodad squares, they are not optional, meaning that when you land on it, you don't have a choice to buy it or not buy it. You have to make the purchase. If you don't have enough money, you can take a loan from the bank at any time, and I'm going to explain that a little bit later in this video. The majority of what you're going to be doing in the game is small deals, big deals, and market cards. So if you land on one of the green squares like this, it will give you the choice to choose a big deal or a small deal. Generally speaking, big deals cost $5,000 or more, and small deals are $5,000 or less. So if you have more than $5,000 in front of you, you might want to consider a big deal. If you have less, you should probably be getting a small deal.